We are back, Rose in Real Talk. This is Victoria and Heather. And okay, y'all. So I was running late today. And this is what we're gonna talk about. But I was running late today. I'm gonna preface this by I rarely ever go get coffee out, just because I can't justify like $18 for a cup of coffee and I have a well, and I have a French
That's what it
press at
feels like.
home, and so like I get up and I have my coffee time, and so
When you have all the
usually
supplies at home, you
right.
super can't justify it.
So I usually I just don't really ever get coffee out. But I was running late today for a listing appointment, and I swung through Starbucks to get coffee, and $18 later, I'm at the window, picking up my coffee and paying for it, and she shoves this like pad in my face. I was using Apple Pay, which I'm loving, by the way. Have like if
Oh,
you
Apple
have
Pay is
not embraced
fantastic.
Apple Pay, I'm just now am like
I love it.
getting up into this.
For a while, I didn't even have my physical debit card. I don't know what happened to it, but I had
I
Apple
don't
Pay, so I didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and I've gotten to that point where I'm like, I don't even have my card with me, but it's all on my anyways. So she shoves the thing in my face, and I'm looking at it, and it's like 25% tip, 20% tip, or 18% tip. There's no like those were the three options, and she's staring at me as I'm
Oh,
like
so the bottom
sitting
option was
there.
25%?
What? No, the top option was
Oh,
25, and
and
then it
then
was 18, and then it was
20, yeah.
20. There was no option for no tip.
You have to specifically say no. So
Yeah,
it
so
puts
it was
you,
other. So you have to push other, and then you have to like type in, a number if you're wanting to tip, I guess, less than 20%.
who's tipping less than
And
20% at Starbucks, losers.
I mean, she's staring at me as I'm doing this. So it's like,
I know.
and so then I got to thinking, like tipping culture is way out of control.
Because
I'm
it's
like, why?
everywhere.
Well, and I'm like, why am I going to tip you 25% for doing the job that you were hired to do? Now, granted, I'm going to preface this by saying I was a bartender for many years during college. It's how I paid for my college when I lived on my own. I have several years under my belt as a bartender and a cocktail waitress. So I see the other side of this. However, those people make $2.13 an hour. I don't know if it's been raised since way back in the day when I did it, but
As far as I know, it hasn't.
so
But that's a generally accepted
right, like
role in which people get tipped because everybody understands that that's how they make their
well,
money.
and we had lunch out this afternoon, and she hands us a book of, a little booklet of with the tab in it with the receipt. I put, my card down. She runs it. She brings the receipt I'm supposed to sign where you add tip and total, whatever, and she walks away. She's not
They don't stare at
staring at
you.
me.
So, okay, so a couple of things come to mind with that. So, first of all, when you tip, do you tip on the total or on the subtotal?
I tip on the total because that's what
I've always tipped on the total, but in recent, I guess last year and a half, I had this conversation with somebody and he said, I don't tip on tax. I tip on the subtotal because when you do it on the total, you're tipping on tax. And I had never thought of it that way. And I remember I asked my mom about it, and my mom does the same thing. And I never thought about that. So I have to admit, I've been looking more at the subtotal, and that's what I use to tip on.
So
It feels a bit like splitting hairs, but I also kind of understand it, the point that
So, and this is where I'm getting with this. So, for people that make, $2.13 an hour, as in this country, we have where servers, they survive on tips because they're $2.13 an hour they make gets eaten up by taxes because they have to claim and, whatever.
they
But
don't
like,
all completely claim. Let's be
for,
real. Let's be
well,
real.
that's true. But for instance, kind of like my Starbucks trip this morning, and I got my hair done the other day. $250 for my hair. Hour and a half of her time. I mean, that's an expensive service.
Yes, it is.
And I'm paying for that service. Like I'm paying for that, for her knowledge and her expertise and her experience, with women's hair. Why am I going to tip on top of that?
So yes. So I never have an issue, obviously, with servers and bartenders. That's how they make their money. And I imagine that came about because it inspires people to give good service because they want to make good money. Whereas if everybody was there making a salary, maybe that wouldn't always be the case.
Well, actually, if you go over to like France or wherever, they have a completely different model.
I know. But I kind of wish that would be different, but now it's everywhere, and it's no matter where you go, somebody's asking for a tip, and It's so, as we've talked about before, I'm a chronic people pleaser and something I'm working on. So sometimes at the coffee shop, somewhere completely ridiculous, I have kind of been guilted into tipping, guilted by myself because I do like they're like you said, they're staring at you. They know that it does
They
that.
know if you hit over here that you're not
And they're
tipping.
gonna see that total come up, and I'm like, well, I don't want to be a jerk. And I have, and now I'm just like, no. Like you make a
Yeah.
wage at Starbucks. Now I will tell you, I've never had a problem with when they have a tip jar out. If somebody has like their change or whatever and they want to throw it in there, I've never had an issue with that. But it's almost expected and it's everywhere. My thing is this, like you got your hair done for $250. If she wants an extra $30 added onto that, then charge me $280.
And
Have your
so,
services align with the money you want to make when you're in that type of job. I should not have
right.
to tip you.
Well, I'm also in a
You should
service
do a good
base.
job
Right.
because otherwise I'm not going to come back to you to do my hair.
Exactly. I'm in a service-based industry, where
Right.
I buy and sell homes for people. I mean, I don't ask for a tip. I provide my service.
We
I
provide title
charge.
service. We don't
Right.
ask for a 20% tip
Do
on
you
top of
tip
the
at
escrow fee.
Chick-fil-A? Do
Right.
you tip it, do you tip your plumber when, when he comes over? Or do you,
Well, no,
maybe I
because
don't
he
know,
hangs
maybe you
his
do,
ass
but
out, and I feel like he should tip me because I had to look at that. But
but I mean, but if you think about it, like you go through the drive-through at a coffee shop more often than not, you're going to get that little thing shoved in your face with a, expecting a 25% tip, or and it's happening all over the place. But if you get your nails done, if you get your hair done, but I mean, there's so many other service-based industries that don't expect a tip, mine included. I never tip my plumber. I've never tipped my AC guy. I don't tip my lawn guy. So where do we draw the line? And I think that's really interesting. If somebody's like watching this or has a different opinion on it, or even just any opinion on it, if you're watching and want to drop, how you're,
yeah,
you're feeling about tipping culture
let us
in
know
the
because
comments, that would be fantastic. But
everything I've seen, people are tired of it.
I'm not going to do it anymore because I feel like if I pay $250 for my hair to be done, I paid you for that service.
Right.
If I pay my plumber, I paid you for that service, for that, knowledge and expertise and labor. Same with my profession. If you, hire me to, buy or sell a home for you, you've paid me for my service. I'm
Right.
not going to ask for an additional on top of that. I'm especially not going to shove like a thing in your face and like stare at you awkwardly while
Like
you're,
you knew how much this costs, and that's what I charged you. I'm going to make what we agreed to, and then, that's it.
yeah.
But it's so funny when you talk about they stare at you while you're doing it. So this is kind of along the same lines, but it's just a little pet peeve that I've always had. I hate it when you tip a server at a restaurant. And so let's say your bill is like whatever and you give 100, right? They're like, "Oh, did you need change?" That's basically their way of saying, "Oh, is this my tip?" I hate when they ask you that. Don't
Yeah.
ask me that. Just go get me change
And
and just
yeah.
say, "I'll be right back with your change." If somebody doesn't want to give you change, they won't give you change. Or they'll
If I
say,
don't
"Just
want
keep
change,
it."
yes, yeah, I would say just keep it.
But when they say, "Did you need change?" Okay, well, it's $35 and I just gave you a $100 bill. Yeah, I'm going to need some change on that.
Yeah.
Like, you're fantastic and I love you and I want to help you support your 5 children. I'll give you more because you did a great job. But don't ask me that. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I don't know why that's just
Well,
always been.
like I've said, I feel like there's a lot of entitlement surrounding it now, where it's, like I said, there was no option on this pad other than 25%, 20%, and 18%. And so it was like automatically 25% is over this, what typically 20% people talk about when they tip. And then there was no zero option. Like I had to go above and beyond to not leave a tip. So the entitlement got me.
So, what do you think about this? What do you think about when automatic gratuities are added?
Okay, so that's funny that you brought that up because I
Because I
actually
have a
saw
couple
something.
different feelings on
I
that.
saw something not too long ago where they're supposed to be outlawing or something restaurants to autograt over or under a certain amount of patrons. So usually you see autograt on
Well,
like
there's
six
usually,
people or more, like bigger
yes,
parties, and I
but
understand that. But
but
autogratting and not saying something, I also don't disagree with,
But
or
here's
I don't agree with.
so here's my problem with it. I don't well, I understand it because I do think that you have a situation like when we did our networking event at Good Charlie's, there was a gratuity added to the
Right,
tab.
right.
So I agree with that because here's the thing. The young man that waited on our room was brought in that night specifically for our party.
Yes.
The GM was wonderful to work with. He gave our people a good deal on some drinks and some appetizers. And so it would be really sad if nobody tipped him.
Oh, yeah.
So I totally understand that.
Right.
But what I have a problem with, I do think that you should say something, but what I have a problem with is, so like when my kids were younger and like, you make friends with other families, like they have kids, you have kids, y'all all go to eat. So I have 3 kids. And so one of my really good friends, she has 2. So even when our 2 families would go out to dinner, it's the 4 adults and it's 5 kids, they would put an auto gratuity on there. And I'm like, this isn't a party of 6 adults who are running you, who are drinking, who are ordering things. It's 4 adults and 5 children. Those people at the end of the table, you don't even have to talk to them.
Yeah.
You're dealing with us.
Yeah. But they do have to clean up after them because as a server, there were people to bring their kids in and there were French fries like all under the table.
I understand that, but I just always had an issue with, it's not, in my opinion, it's not truly a party of 9. There's a difference between a party of 9 adults and 2 families that are eating. And that's just my opinion. I've worked in restaurants, but there are probably some servers that would disagree with me.
Yeah.
I worked in restaurants before I did anything else when I was younger. And I always had an issue with that. Some people really don't like the gratuity being added. And I've heard people say before, like, I was going to tip you more, but that's your tip. So it's like, I think there's 2 schools of thought on that.
Yeah, I do feel like when I was, waiting tables, we did have that policy where it was 6 people over. If there were children at the table, that they didn't count as 6 people. I do remember that. However, one of the places I worked at was very strict on if we auto-graded, it was highlighted.
Yeah.
When you brought that
do think
check
you
to
should
the
make the
table,
guest aware of
it
it.
was highlighted. And I know
Yeah.
some places don't do that. Well, they'll autograt and then the server won't tell you. And most people just kind of like, oh, here,
It's
like,
automatic. They tip. And I
and
never
to me,
had
that's dishonest. I don't like that at all.
I don't either. And I mean, and I don't have a problem with giving more of a
Do you need
tip.
more wine?
Yes, please. I don't have a problem with giving a tip above and beyond, especially if it is a large party and they did a really good job. But yeah, they should definitely make people aware so that they have the choice. They don't think that they have to tip because this person's not going to get a tip.
Do you like this?
I do.
Okay, so this is...
It's light and it's kind of dry.
Yes. So this is the, Quintano Rosé. It's from Argentina. I got it at Costco.
Oh.
This is our second week having it. I got 2.
I was going to say, did we have that last week?
We did have it last
Okay.
week. It was our second week having it. I'm liking it. I like that it's kind of light. I like that I
is
got it
light.
at Costco and it was cheap.
How much was that?
I think it was like $9.99.
Oh, I love that. I love a good and expensive wine.
Yeah. So, again, there seems to be like, where do we draw the line here? Because I'm not tipping, my real estate photographer. He probably would want a tip. He's sitting right here. Now that he's going to bring that up later on.
He would take it.
He would take it, but
He's not above that.
But I mean, where do we draw the line?
And I don't
Because it
blame him.
seems like quick service people, coffee shop people, nails, hair, even the tattoo artist that I got a tattoo from not too long ago.
Stop.
Yes, and I even Googled it before I went in there and was like, "Am I supposed to tip?" And it
No.
said yes.
You know what always was a rule of thumb for me, and I don't know what you think about this. It would depend on who the person was. So like if I hired somebody to clean my house, I was always in and out of that over the years. Like I would feel bad doing it. I didn't like the way they did it. So then I would quit doing it and then I'd go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tip if I hired a company and they sent people that work for them. I would tip the people that work for the company. But when it was the person that owned the company, I wouldn't tip them. I'm like, you own the company. These are going to be all whatever your profit is, it's going to be yours. So it was the same way when I would get my hair done. I used to get my hair done at a salon that had multiple stylists, but the owner was who did my hair. And I would tip her a little bit. I wouldn't do as much. She owned it. And I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, but
I don't know. I'm taking, and this is my position on it now. I'm not tipping unless it's a restaurant server and you're making $2.13
so like
an
you
hour.
just recently got your house deep cleaned.
I did not tip her. No, I also paid $600 for that deep clean. So if I were to tip, 20% on that, I mean, golly, that's another $100. No, I mean,
You're like, no, period.
no, I mean, I'm not going to do that. I paid her for her service. She
Hmm.
set her pricing. When we talked about this is what I need,
See that right
she
there.
said,
That's what I
this is
think.
what I'm going to charge for that, and we agreed on a price. And I don't feel like I needed to give her any extra. I mean, the mover we moved recently. The movers were $3,000.
Stop.
And even
Three
though
thousand
it was
dollars?
3,000, I mean, because it was a full house and
Why?
it was like several truckloads. I mean, things are expensive now, especially in this, economy where everything's inflated and now you want to inflate it anymore. I mean, how much of this is hurting us more than it's really helping? Where someone's going to be like, well, if I'm expected to tip 20% on my lip filler's not cheap.
Girl, the lip filler injectors are getting tips?
Yes. Last time I went to go get my Botox and my filler, there was the tip, thing.
Shut up.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my
it's
God.
like it's getting
You know what it is?
aggressive.
I think so. All these businesses, they all get their POS software from somewhere, whether it's Square or whatever other platforms they use for their
Hmm.
systems. And I think these software developers, I don't know this, I'm just totally guessing. I think they're building that into the software. And so I do think, and I don't know why, but I do think that some of these businesses that wouldn't otherwise ask for that, it's part of the software, so they just go with it. Because it's coming up in places that you
Right.
would never expect it. And I don't know that, but for using the software, if those people would really be propositioning their customers for tips.
So that's interesting way to look at it. Like how
I've
much,
wondered
how
that
much of this software and
because
then
it's a lot of the same systems. Like there's one called Toast,
yeah, and they're
there's
square.
Square, and I don't know the ins and outs of the, and I know restaurants tend to use a different kind of
Yeah, they
POS
use
system
restaurant.
altogether.
Yeah, restaurant.
But I think I wonder if it's built into the software, and so more businesses are kind of going with it. And if it works, and people, because a lot of people just tip, they're like, "Oh, I like to take care of people." La, 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 la. Well,
I mean, that's great. I love to
I would
take
like
care
to
of
pay
people as well,
$18 for my
but
coffee and not 22. You know, or
right. And
20.
then again, I may patronize that business more often for an $18 coffee if it's $18 and not 22, where I can
Right.
justify the lower cost a little bit better. I mean, for my, lip filler, I mean, lip filler is not cheap. And so if I'm going to have to, factor in an
Bro.
upcharge for a tip, how often, maybe I'm going to push that back another few months.
Ew, I have a friend that's about to get. Hold on.
What? Oh dear.
I'm going to text her and ask her if she's going to tip for lip filler. She's pretty direct. I'll be interested to see what she,
Who is it?
I'm not going to say.
Oh gosh.
I'm not putting that out there.
Who cares? Like, I don't care that anybody. I
I
get
know. I don't
Botox.
think she would either,
My boobs
but
are not real. I get Botox. I get lip filler. I've had a tummy tuck. I really don't care if anybody knows it. I've got extensions.
well, the way I look at it is it's not my story to tell.
Okay, I agree with that. I do feel like it's interesting to hear what other people have to say about it.
Okay, so I said, "Hey, when you get your lip filler next week, are you going to tip?" She's never gotten it before.
Okay. I mean, because whenever she goes to pay, like they're gonna put the thing in front of
And
her.
she used to be in the service industry as well. So she completely has been on the other side of making money off tips.
All right.
That's interesting.
That is very interesting.
Lip filler is too much. That tears it. That's where I draw the line. Lip filler. It's so expensive.
I know, but it's like it's one of those things you get like done like once a year or
Oh,
once every
and I'm
year
not
and a
judging you. I'm
half.
just saying the tip on top of
And
that is just like,
that's
oh,
what I'm saying. Like
that's
when
too
you start to get
much.
into these, I mean, I didn't tip my plastic surgeon. I mean,
Yeah, they make enough. We don't
yeah,
need to
well, I
tip on
mean,
top of
yeah,
it.
but still at the same time, like, I mean,
I
my
like how you started
injector,
listing off all your.
I don't care. Like, I'm one of those people, I give zero fucks. Like,
You
I
know
don't
what Dolly
care if,
Parton said? So, with celebrities, everyone's always like, what work have you had done? They're always trying to figure out. And Dolly Parton was always very open with what she's had done. And she goes, I spent a lot of money to look this cheap.
I've got to tell you, I've never understood
I think
that.
a tube
Why
top
try
on
and
top
hide
of your
it?
fake boobs
Why
would look
try and
great with
hide it?
that on
Because
there.
everybody knows your forehead is not that. I mean, when your
Not that
forehead
smooth.
doesn't move and you're 40, come on, girl.
When you're like
everybody knows.
but
Let's not try and
trying to
hide it. Everybody
laugh.
knows. Just own it.
Yeah.
I mean, my tits look fantastic. I paid a lot of money
Oh,
for them,
I know. They better look great, right? You paid
and I
enough for
didn't
them.
tip my fucking plastic surgeon either.
Well, I wouldn't go back there because they're going to butcher you next time because you didn't tip.
Shit. I've also wondered too, like if you don't, like if you were to finance your plastic surgery,
She goes, am I supposed to?
see? I also feel like though, if you're going to finance your plastic surgery, what are they going to do? Are they going to come back and repo it?
I know, right?
I mean, I paid cash for mine, but like if you were to,
You're like, peace out the parking lot.
whoopsie daisy.
Hold on. She said, am I supposed to? I'm going to say Victoria said when she gets hers done.
No, don't even say that.
What? What do you want? Oh.
I don't tip my injector.
No, I'm going to say that they ask for a tip. And
Oh,
she
yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah, they will ask for a tip.
So I said, Victoria said when she gets hers done. Oh, hold on. I hate when my fingers go faster than my mind goes faster than my fingers.
Why are you on your phone in the middle of our podcast?
When she gets hers done, they ask for one because I wanted to know if she was going to tip. Okay. Anyway,
If somebody is watching this that has a difference of an opinion,
I just like how she said, "Am I supposed to?" See, people don't know that because it's weird.
but then you get up there.
It's weird to go
and
get lip
somebody's
filler for
standing
hundreds of
there
dollars
in front of you, and it's like here, like here's your total, and you give them your card, and they swipe the screen towards you or whatever, and there's your tip options.
Here's $900 to have your lip filler. So you can do 18%, 20%, 25%.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm going
You
to go
can
back old
consider
school.
me-
I'm not doing it.
You can consider me mind blown emoji on that one. I had no idea.
Yeah, I'm not. I've quit for my nails. I've quit for my hair. I've quit for any type of.
So you don't tip the nail lady?
Nope.
Okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I still do.
No, I don't, because they're making, even though their structure, their pay structure, from what I understand, I don't know like offhand, but from what I understand, they make a percentage of all the services that they do. The like the
Oh yeah, tell me.
owners of the nail place or whatever, they provide I guess the products, but the tech makes a percentage, and then
Of the total days
of whatever services they do.
bringing ins? Oh, what they do.
So if they do a pedicure that's $50, like they get a percentage of that service.
That's how they get paid.
Right. And then they're supposed to claim that. And I know a lot of those nail people don't.
If the nail salon's paying them, they have to claim it.
Well, if they get anything in cash, like anything that's paid in cash, I know a lot
Well,
of
if the
them.
nail salon's paying them in cash, that's an issue with the nail salon.
Well,
They should be
I
cutting
have seen
checks.
in my industry where people come to me to qualify for a home, I've seen a lot of ladies that have worked in the nail industry that cannot qualify for a loan because they
don't claim all
don't
their
show anything on their income taxes.
Oh, I did mortgages for a
'Cause they
hot
don't claim
minute.
anything.
I still remember this one couple trying to get qualified for a home, and I was like, dude, you're going to go out like Al Capone. I don't want anything to do with this when he gave me his taxes. I was like, I don't want to be involved. They made nothing.
Yeah.
But he had a $127,000 backyard, and this was back, but when $127,000 for a legit backyard was a lot.
Yeah.
This was years ago.
So that's why I'm kind of hesitant to tip.
He wrote the whole thing
That-
off. He wrote the whole thing off, bro.
Yeah.
I didn't want anything to do with that.
So there I'm also hesitant to tip because I'm like, I know that you're not claiming really
Yeah.
any of what you're making, and on top of, again, I'm paying for a service.
But when
You're
I
not
tip
making
somebody,
$2 an
I'm going to
hour.
tip them if I think they should tip them. Whether or not they choose to claim it is between them and Uncle
That's
Sam
true.
and the Lord. It doesn't. I'm not into that. I'm not going to tip you because I don't think that I should have to tip you.
Now, remember, tipping actually came from to ensure prompt service. So tipping originally originated when it was like, I'm going to give you like, hey, keep those drinks coming, and I'm
Yeah.
going to like throw you a little like under the
You're going to
thing.
be
So
like,
that's
hey,
where,
can we get to the front of the line?
so that's actually where it came from. And it was actually to ensure prompt service. And now we've kind of gone
I
down
have two
this.
friends, George and Benjamin, who said that you could get us in faster.
So I don't know. I've adopted, I think at this point, I'm going to stick to restaurant
Like old school,
employees,
original.
servers that are working on, pennies an hour, and those are the people that I'm going to tip, and I'm going to tip based on, service performance, because that's what I guess I could say grew up with, but that's, how it worked for me, and I'm not tipping my injectors and my hair ladies and my plastic surgeons.
No.
And
Okay, first of all, when people go into medicine and they get into plastic surgery, girl, that's where the money is. Like, why would I tip you? And estheticians, I mean, I don't know what they range, but estheticians cannot be hurting, especially in areas like ours. So I think it's funny. I had no idea that they asked for a tip.
I also don't want to go back, like off of like, well, you make plenty of money. Like, well, I mean, if they make plenty of money, they probably worked hard to get there. They've done, they've done what what they
I'm
need to
not
do.
bagging on the fact that they make plenty of money,
But
but you don't need my extra $10 in tip. Adjust your
right,
prices. If you need that $10, adjust your
yeah.
pricing and charge me
My
$15
point
more.
is, I'm just going back to the $2.13 an hour. I don't know if it's been raised since,
As far as I
but
know, it's still that. So I used to work in a restaurant, and this one restaurant I worked in, the GM, I always heard that when he went out to eat, he would put a stack of cash on the table, and every time the server made a mistake, he would take money off of it. And I'm like, that's so douchey, especially when you work in a restaurant.
it really
And he was the
is.
GM, like he ran
Well,
the
and
restaurant.
people, like, I mean, I was in the industry for a very long time. People treat industry, people, servers, bartenders like shit. They feel entitled, to treat people like crap, like they're beneath them because in that particular time they're serving them. They see them as beneath them. They treat people a whole different way than they would treat them if they saw them outside, of
Right.
that situation on the street, at the grocery store,
Well,
whatever.
and I'm going to tell you, if I go to dinner with somebody and he treats the service people, it's done.
Yeah.
It's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Because that is an insight into how they treat people uh, that they think aren't as good as them, even though that's not true. But just someone that's serving you, you should treat them the same way you treat anybody else.
Well, it's funny how people look at those people in that position in that moment. Because if you
Right.
were to approach that person outside of that situation, would you really still treat them the same way? Probably
Well, what's
not.
funny is you never know who anybody is. You don't know why that person decides to do that. But you know what? Even if it's somebody, there are some cases where you can make a really good living being a server in different areas at different types of restaurants. Some of those servers
Some of the
make
higher end,
more
yep.
money than some of the people that might be able to go in there one time for a fancy dinner. But I remember I did go to dinner with this one person, and so he prefers his steak rare. And is either rare, I think it's medium rare. He's very particular how he likes his steak, and he is very honest. So he was like, I just want to be honest with you. This is how I like my steak. He goes, if it's not right, I'm going to send it back. And he's like, I just want you to know. So he was very clear and very particular how he liked it, but I felt like he handled it well.
Well, sending something back is not the problem. It's how you do
But that's what I'm
it.
saying. I felt like he was very good with the server about it. He was very upfront. He was very polite. Food came out. Steak was wrong.
Well, it's likely
So the
not the
server,
server's fault
no, it's
either,
not the
unless they
server's
rang it
fault.
in
But
wrong.
unfortunately, they're the face of the restaurant at the
So they
table.
take the brunt of it.
But what I'm saying is I appreciated how he handled it because I felt like it was very kind and it was very direct, and he was very open about, listen, this is how I like my steak. If it's not right, he goes, I will send it back. And so steak came out, it wasn't right. And he was just like, no, he sent it back. The server brought it back. It was good. And it was just such a good interaction
Yeah.
for something like that. And, the server never broke stride. He was totally cool. He was a great server.
Yeah.
The person I was having dinner with handled it just with a lot of class.
Yeah, it's
in my
absolutely how
opinion.
you handle those situations because it's not rude. I don't feel like it's rude at all to send
No,
something
it's
back,
not.
especially if you're
But a
paying
lot
a
of
lot of
times
money
when
for
people
it.
send things back, it goes sideways because they're rude about it. And
Yeah.
that will always stick out because I just appreciated how classy he handled that.
Yeah.
And he still got what he wanted.
Right. We always do want to hear from our subscribers. So if you have any comments or you have any opinions on anything we're talking about, or if you have a topic that you think that we should cover, let us know in the comments below.
And if you liked what you heard and you want to hear more, we drop new episodes regularly. Hit subscribe and
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.